here's a lot of League terms that you should know. Some of these are very basic, but all of them will help you understand League content better. First, lanes. These are the 3 paths that the laners play on. Bot, or ADC, or APC. This is the player in the bottom lane. The other 2 laners are just called the top laner and the mid laner. ADC. This stands for Attack Damage Carry. APC. This stands for Ability Power Carry. AD and AP. These stand for Attack Damage and Ability Power, and represent the 2 damage types. If you want to know how damage types work, check out my video on the shop. Sup. This doesn't mean hello. It is short for support, and is the other player in the bottom lane. Jungle. This is the space between the lanes. The player that plays here is also just called the jungle or jungler. River. This is the watery area that splits the map in half. Pit. These are the 2 spots by the river where the objectives spawn. Fountain. This is the spawn location at the corners of the map. This is the only place where you can access the shop. Monsters. These are the NPCs that spawn in the jungle area that can be farmed for gold. Minions. These are the NPCs that spawn in each of the lanes that can be farmed for gold. Melee minion. These are the minions in the front of each wave that carry axes. Caster minions. These are the ranged minions in the back of each wave. Cannon minions. These are the big minions that spawn every 3 waves. Last hit. This is when you get the final hit that kills a minion, granting you the gold. CS, or creep score, or farm. This is the number of minions or jungle monsters you have killed, and is often talked about on a per minute basis, with 10 CS per minute being the goal. Wave management. This is how you manipulate the movement or placement of the minions in the lane. Pushing or crashing. This is when you advance your minions so the enemy turret can attack them. Freezing. This is when you keep the minions stuck in place in the lane closer to your turret. Roaming. This is when you leave lane to pressure elsewhere on the map. Ganking. This is when you surprise attack a lane that you don't belong to. Counter gank. This is when you gank a lane during an enemy gank. Drake or drag. These are the dragons that spawn in the bottom side pit. Rift Herald or Shelly. This is the purple objective in the top side pit until 20 minutes. Baron Nashor or Nash. This is the larger objective that spawns in place of the Rift Herald after 20 minutes have passed. Scuttle Crab. This is the green monster that walks up and down each of the rivers. If it dies, it creates a small circle that buffs your movement speed. Turret Plates. These are the black bars on the turret health bar at the beginning of the game. If you break each of these bars and you are nearby, then you get extra gold. Inhibitor or Inhibs. These are the crystals behind the 3rd turrets. These respawn eventually after being destroyed, but while they are gone, the team that destroyed them spawns super minions in the corresponding lane. Super minions. These are super strong minions that can slap you to death, or your base for that matter. Nexus. This is the gem in the back of each team's base. The game ends when one team's Nexus is destroyed. Abilities. These are each champion's Q, W, E, and R. Auto attack. This is the basic attack when you right click on an enemy. Ultimate or ulti. This is your R ability. It usually has a much longer cooldown than the other abilities, and will not be unlocked until level 6. CDR. This stands for cooldown reduction, and is how short the cooldown is for your abilities. Ability haste. This has the same meaning as CDR. Kite. This is when you move between auto attacks, keeping space between yourself and the enemy so you can do damage but they cannot. Trade. This is when you attack your opponent in lane, trading resources such as cooldowns for HP. All in. This is when you commit all of your resources to try and kill your opponent in lane. Recall or back or go home. This is when you return to spawn with the B button. Execute. This is what happens when you die but no one on the enemy team gets credit for the kill. On hit. This is an effect that procs on each auto attack and on certain abilities. AoE. This stands for Area of Effect and encompasses any ability that can hit multiple targets at once. Skill Shot. These are abilities that must be aimed and can miss. Point and click. An ability that only requires you to click on the enemy to cast. Vision. This is any part of the map that your team can see. Fog of War. This is areas of the map that are hidden from your team. Trinkets or Ward. These are totems that can be placed to give vision. Sweeper, Red Ward, Control Ward. These are devices used to deny enemy vision by detecting hidden enemy wards. Fed. This is when someone has a lot of kills or gold. Int. This is short for intentional feeding. This originally meant when someone was purposely dying to the enemy, but is often just used as an insult for people playing poorly. CC. This is short for crowd control, It is any effect that prevents your champion from taking an action, such as stopping movement or ability usage, tower dive or dive. This is when you all-in an enemy while they're underneath of their turret. This is usually done with multiple people, but can be done by one person. FF or 15. This means someone wants to forfeit the game at 15 minutes, which is the earliest time you can do so. If someone on your team says this, they probably just died and their mental is shot. Prio. This is short for priority, and is when a laner can leave their lane without risk of getting punished by their lane opponent. Frontline. In fights involving multiple players, there are champions that can be in front of your team, often tanks which can take a lot of damage. These are your frontline. Backline. In fights involving multiple players, these are the champions that are in the back of your team, often high damage, low durability champions. Backdoor or ex-peke. This is when a player sneaks past the enemy and destroys an exposed nexus, ending the game. This can only be done when both of the interior turrets are destroyed. Snowball. This is when a champion is able to use its lead early on to gain more advantages which compound into a farther lead. Gap Closer. This is when an ability or item allows you to close the distance between you and an enemy, putting you in a range where the rest of your kits can be effective. Engage. These are abilities that allow a champion to begin a fight, often by using a CC ability on an enemy. Disengage. These are abilities that allow a champion to exit a fight. This can either be a movement ability to move oneself away from danger such as a dash, or a CC ability to keep the enemy from chasing. LP. These are your ranked points. After winning or losing a game, you will be shown an amount of LP lost or gained. MMR. This is based on what rank the system thinks you belong in, and is separate from your LP and invisible to you. This determines how much LP you gain or lose after a match. Dodge. Dodging is when you close the game during champion select to avoid playing the game. One trick. This refers to someone who plays one champion exclusively. Main. Someone who mains a champion or a role plays that primarily, but is not necessarily exclusive. Meta. The meta refers to champions and strategies that are currently considered the strongest. The meta is usually dictated by pro or high-level play. These were some of the terms that I thought some of you might not know that are hopefully useful in the future. But, for now, I'm afraid we've come to the end of our time.